Well, I'm Alan Dale from Gale Force Friends. What a great day I'm having here at the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Safety Association, talking to people that are really making a difference. And I got to tell you, these people are making sure people get home every day safe to be with their families, and we're getting to know them one by one. And on that note, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do.
I'm Lloyd Hussey. I'm a member of the board of the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Safety Association. I've been on the board actually since it was formed in 1996, 97. I'm involved in construction. I've been primarily a contractor. I'm an engineering technologist, which is how I got to be on the board because I was their rep in the beginning. In the last 10 years, I've got my own business managing construction projects.
You've been on the board since its inception. Talk to me about the evolution of the NLCSA over the years. Talk to me about where it was then to where it is now.
Well, I'd like to talk about where it was in the beginning. In the beginning, it was the Construction Industry Forum started, then there was the Industrial Adjustment Service Committee. I don't want to bore you with those, but out of that collaboration over a number of years came the Newfoundland Labrador Construction Safety Association. Bill Parsons, who's gone now, he was with the Federation of Labour. He talked to Minister of Kevin Aylward. They gave us $90,000. Myself and Hayward Pike got on a plane and went to Nova Scotia to meet with the Nova Scotia Safety Association.
Okay.
And figure out how they did it. We took as many notes as we could, came back, and that's how we started. Hayward was the first chair, and we formed a board, and we went from there. In the beginning, we had safety training, but it was never consistent.
Okay.
And we had an opportunity to take this training for ourselves and control it ourselves. Industry driven is the words that they use to describe our association, and that's what we are. We do this for our members. We do it for contractors, construction companies, make them safer. I always say safety is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Mm-hmm. If I teach you what's the hazard on a job site and how do you manage it, or either eliminate it or manage it, then I'm teaching you, that's training, then I'm teaching you about occupational health and safety. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. Knowledge, not just what we do, but why we do it, will save lives.
I mean, you've been at it now for 25 years in this world, in this role. Talk to me about the impact that this association's had over the last 25 years.
So when we started in 96, accidents actually went up. It was scary. From the period of 96 till about 2000. And then something happened in 2000, and they started to come down. And around the same time, Hibernia, if you could look at it in terms of two graphs, down came the accidents over the next 10 years, up went employment. That's never happened before.
Right.
I don't care where you go in Canada, you'll never see that statistic happen before. Accidents went down and employment went up. And it was unique. Up until 2000, we had some naysayers. They really didn't want us to be doing this. And once the initial money ran out, then we had to have a levy, which was an attachment to workers' compensation fees, to pay for what we were doing, how we were going to, we could have an office, we had to have staff, we had to have trainers, and so on. And in the beginning, if you could think about this, I remember my very first job after coming back from Nova Scotia was I was chair of the curriculum committee, and we had no curriculum. We had what they had, but we didn't have it. It had to match up with Newfoundland's legislation. And I remember on my birthday in 1997 coming into the boardroom with the curriculum and laying it on the table in April, and the board approving the curriculum. Now, what did we have to do next? Well, we had to have trainers. Well, that whole summer, all we did was train trainers.
Right.
I don't remember all the names. Faith Roberts was around then, there was others. But I remember by September, we were ready to start training contractors. And the idea was, we were going to have, Sherry talked earlier about CORE. CORE is not core in the way you think about C-O-R-E, it's CORE is C-O-R, Certificate of Recognition. And in order to get that, you got to work like hell to get that certificate of recognition. You have to have a pretty high standard for safety in your company, and not everybody was buying into this.
Right.
So in the early days, we had a lot of companies that didn't really want to do this. But as the companies that were buyers of construction, I'm thinking about Newfoundland Labrador Hydro, Newfoundland Labrador Housing, the government, the Newfoundland government itself, Department of Transport, others started saying, for you to be working on our jobs, we require you to be core certified. That's when this started to happen.
Right. Not only do you have those a program like core, but it seems like they're constantly trying to get better here, constantly innovating, continuously improving, and introducing new programs. That must be, for you, who's been around so long, music to your ears.
So the latest one that we've done that Sherry talked about earlier was the Site Safe certification, which is for small employers. So the bulk of the employers that are listed in the construction group are smaller employers, less than 20 people. But all of the big work is done by a very small group, but they do a lot of work. So most of those most of those companies are core certified. That's a huge step for us. We really had to step outside of our comfort zone to do that, because core is so rigid. The core program is so rigid, and the standard is so high. In order to meet it, you got to have some resources behind you, and you have to, sometimes a lot of these smaller companies don't have it. So that's a big change. If I were to talk about one single thing that happened earlier, and it came from collaboration with workers' comp, workplace NL, and that was a program called PRIME, P-R-I-M-E. And essentially what it said to the contractors, that if you're core certified, we'll give you a reduction on your workers' compensation rate.
Okay.
I remember being at a boardroom table where at the time I was a bit of a lone wolf, a voice in the wilderness, so to speak. I mean, I had contractors tell me when I was managing projects that we were going to go out of business because I was too insistent upon safety. I had one contractor tell me that one day at a job site, and I said, well, I'm going to tell you, I won't say his name, but I'm going to tell you that if you don't get on board with this safety, you're going to get run over. 2 years later, that same contractor came into my job shack, different job, and said, I wanted you to know that our company was core certified this week.
Wow.
So he came around, same kind of thing. But that prime that I mentioned, I don't want to lose that thought. In the boardroom, one year, I remember asking I worked for a company called ND Dobbin Limited, Durham Dobbin, and I remember asking the controller, the accountant, how much money did workers' comp send back to us last year for Prime? And he said the number. I was never questioned about occupational health and safety again. That was transformational. For those larger companies, getting back 5% of what you pay in is a huge amount of money. It actually, in some cases, can pay for what it costs for you to manage the program.
Right.
Not always, but it helps.
Yeah. You've been on the board for a long time. Talk to me about the importance of the voices on the board and everybody being involved in the conversation.
I mentioned Bill Parsons. There were others, Hayward Pike, Mike Power. I'm talking about people who they come here for a reason. They come because they think they can make a difference. Mm-hmm. And they really believe that being on the board, once they get here and realize what it is that we stand for. And you know that in Newfoundland, there are other safety associations out in Canada. But in Newfoundland, only in Newfoundland, do we have all the stakeholders in the construction industry on our board. All of them. In some jurisdictions, safety association, there is a safety association for a certain group, and then another safety association for a different group. There's a bit of plurality. Not in Newfoundland. In Newfoundland, we represent every stakeholder in the construction industry, and it's very unique because it doesn't happen anywhere else in Canada, or at least if it does, it's news to me.
Right.
And I think that when all those people come to the table, and you got to picture these now. You got associations like the Heavy Civil, the Construction Association, the Home Builders, horticulturalists. You know, all those people out there, technicians, engineers. They're all at the table. They're all involved in construction, and they all bring a unique perspective. So in 30 years, I can tell you that one thing even though the voices have changed and the people have changed, the thinking has remained the same. It's what do we do that you mentioned in your own way. How do we make this so that the person going to work comes home at the end of the day and there's no issue? I always say to people, and I'm not trying to sell anything, but I always say this, just think about this, that if you could say this year there were however many less accidents than there were last year and the year before, and the trend is that there's less and less. Then there's somebody walking around today that didn't die,
Right.
or didn't have an accident, or isn't incapacitated or crippled because of what we're doing. Now, it doesn't mean that we're responsible for it,
Yeah.
but
We're laying the groundwork to make sure that
we've made a difference. And I believe that if I had any one thing in my life that I've ever been so proud of, it's been my involvement in this association.
Speaking of proud, NLCSA, the team here is fantastic. Some of them have been here since the beginning. What does that say about an association?
Well, it says something about the association. Yes, it does. But it's a good place for the people. What does it say about them? What does it say about their commitment to occupational health and safety? I think it says a lot. I think there's people out there, Allison, Tracy, Tammy. I can't remember all the names, and I shouldn't do that. But before them, Jackie and others who they come here for a reason. They come here because they think they can make a difference. They come here because they're going to help our members be better at safety, be more productive, less accidents. It doesn't cost them so much more money. They can bid more work. And it also, there's a certain sense of pride that comes from knowing that you're trying to make your business safer and the people who work for your business safer. One of the first questions you could ask somebody on the job site, if you ever get a chance to, is what's it like working for this company? And if it's a good company and they're safe, that's the first thing they'll say. This is a good place to work. They look after their workers.
And that's what experience looks like at the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Safety Association. Thank you.